Be a part of the best pro wrestling podcast today by supporting the Going In Raw Patreon. You can enjoy access to the live taping of the show, exclusive merchandise, and patron-only episodes, and so much more. Support Going In Raw today. Click the link in the description. Hey friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
This past week marks 14 years since John Cena made his debut on WWF television, answering Kurt Angle's open challenge. And while Cena's debut was befitting of the man who's become one of the WWE's biggest stars, not all debuts are all that great.
No, some of them are downright horrible, usually to hilarious effect.
So here are the 9 worst wrestling debuts.
Vader! One of the stiffest workers in the business debuted at WCW with this bizarre giant masked shoulder piece that he removed, and then it shut out steam. If Vader wanted to make an impact on his debut, he should have just showed the crowd pictures of his eyes being popped out by Stan Hansen, and then get on the mic and say, "I stuffed it back in," and finish the match. That would have been a great debut.
That'd have been great.
The Ascension! Victor and Connor held the NXT tag titles for like a year or so their call-ups to the main roster should have signaled the beginning of something big for them. But then they dropped a fucking terrible heel promo running down all the tag teams they were modeled after, namely the Road Warriors. That instantly got them X-Pac heat, and they haven't recovered since.
Bret Hart! The Excellence of Execution's WCW debut was executed in the least excellent way possible. The man came off the hottest shoot angle in wrestling history, the Montreal Screwjob at Survivor Series 97, so his next appearance was sure to be hotly anticipated. People will be rabid to hear Bret shoot all over the WWE, maybe to claim he never lost the title, that he was still the man.
But for some stupid reason, idiot Eric Bischoff decided to keep Hart off TV for a month!
Until the lead up to Starrcade 97, when, on an episode of Nitro, Bret came out and was announced as a special guest ref for the Bischoff-Larry Zbyszko match where control of Nitro was up for grabs. Bret's body language and demeanor during his promo just screamed a defeated man, probably because he knew he was immediately being misused. It signaled the worst bungling of a wrestler maybe ever. Hart had some good matches in WCW, but he was never used to his full potential, and his career was cut short when Goldberg kicked him in the head and rattled his brain.
And it all started with his debut in WCW. Can you imagine if he came out on Nitro the night after Survivor Series? Just give him a mic, let him go to town. It would have given WCW a massive ratings win and kept them white hot for a longer period of time. WCW could have used Bret to turn the entire wrestling fan base against the WWE if used properly.
That was WCW though. It was a story of what ifs and never happened, and let's let everybody else book everything because there's nobody in control. Stone Cold Steve Austin! The Rattlesnake was brought in under the $1 Million Man as the ringmaster and immediately given the $1 Million belt. Unfortunately, nobody gave dollar shit about him until DiBiase left and he was transitioned to his Stone Cold character, which we all knew blew up and became one of the biggest draws in the history of professional wrestling. But Austin with green trunks, a buzz cut, and no goatee? What? Fake Diesel and Razor! The WWF was so hurt over Hall and Nash jumping ship to WCW that they dolled up a pre-Kane Glenn Jacobs to look like Nash's WWF character Diesel. And they got some dude named Rick Bognar to dress up and act like Razor Ramon. It was so confusing, so petty, and indicative of how desperate the WWF was back in 1996 when WCW was poaching all their talent. The Rock! Back when the WWF loved them some fresh, happy, smiling baby faces, The Rock, then known as Rocky Maivia, was built up in a series of boring video vignettes showcasing his heritage and how good he was.
They pushed the crap out of him, but his goofy haircut, cartoonish entrance gear, and proclivity for smiling a lot just turned people off. He seemed cheesy, and no one cared that he was WWF's first third-generation wrestler.
Of course, once he turned heel, all that changed, and when The Rock was officially born, he started on the road to superstar Hollywood guy. But no one would have ever predicted that upon first seeing him walk down the ramp at Survivor Series 96 as part of Barry Windham's group. He ended up being the sole survivor in that match, but it wasn't soon before the fan base started chanting, "Die, Rocky, die!"
So I guess Roman Reigns should be happy, because all they chant at him is, "You can't wrestle!"
There's still time for the fans to ramp that up, though. Lex Luger! According to Eric Bischoff during an interview on Legends with JBL, he had no desire to bring Lex Luger into WCW when the Total Package's contract with the WWF ran out in 1995. and lowballed him something fierce when Sting convinced him that Luger should be brought in. I believe Bischoff said he had no liking for Luger personally or professionally.
That sounds correct. Luger, who may or may not have understood the concept of numbers, accepted Bischoff's allegedly shitty deal and made his debut on the first episode of WCW Monday Night Nitro on September 4th, 1995, wearing a collarless, puffy dress shirt thing, and just sort of sauntered through the crowd and smirked slightly as if he just spent the last 30 minutes crop dusting the Mall of America after downing some cold lasagnas and a couple Strombolis at Sbarro's.
There is some significance to his arrival just 8 days after his appearance at SummerSlam. The Monday Night Wars kicked off with WCW having poached the WWF of a former main eventer, but it was Lex Luger. He wasn't really doing a whole lot in the WWF at the time anyways.
Yeah, then he got in the ring and dropped a really awkward promo with Hulk Hogan talking about playing with the big boys.
Yeah.
It was all very WCW. I just hope no one going to the mall that day was too inconvenienced by the whole affair. I'm sure parking was awful.
Probably. Imagine going to Sears and seeing the total package, looking at collarless dress shirts, and then hoping he doesn't confuse you with Marcus Bagwell and put you in the torture rack.
Speaking of Marcus Bagwell.
Luger was like, "Aren't you Scotty Riggs?" No, dude. No, leave me alone.
No, I'm cool, man.
Buff Bagwell! We all know about the WCW invasion angle, what should have been one of the greatest storylines in wrestling history. The official blow-off from the Monday Night Wars landed with a thud thanks to wrestler contract issues.
In short, most of the big names of WCW decided to sit out their plush Turner contracts instead of letting the WWE buy them out on the cheap and bringing them into the company for the story.
Which makes sense. Who wouldn't want to stay at home and enjoy fat paychecks doing absolutely nothing instead of going to work for less money?
So the wrestlers that did jump over were the mid-card guys like Lance Storm and Hugh Morris. With the exception of Booker T, there were no big names. The guys that did come in were good workers, but it's not like Hogan or Nash or Hall or Goldberg or Flair came in to mix things up.
And then we got Buff Bagwell, who was brought in to fight Booker T in the main event of the rebranded WCW TV on Raw.
After a bout that featured a lot of rest holds, a restless crowd chanting "boring," the match was interrupted by Steve Austin and Kurt Angle, who started beating down on Booker T. Inexplicably, Buff Bagwell joined in.
And it made any sense. They were supposed to be WCW's best, fighting for not just the WCW title, but to get in the good graces of the WWF fan base. This was their time to shine, to impress them, and Buff is turning on Booker T? It didn't make any fucking sense. Buff was then sent home and told not to come back.
Buff seems to be doing okay these days, though. You know, he got into the male escort business.
Yeah, now he gives rich old ladies the stuff.
'Cause I guess they can't get enough.
Meaning his dick.
But he was also there for the opening of Scott Steiner's restaurant, right?
That's right, Shoney's in Ackworth, Georgia. Scott Steiner, you guys should check it out. The Shockmaster! This debut was the most WCW debut ever. If you haven't seen this, do yourself a favor and Google Shockmaster WCW and you'll witness one of the best wrestling things ever.
Fred Ottman, better known as Typhoon in the Natural Disasters, donned a glittery stormtrooper helmet and was supposed to be the mystery partner for Sting and Ric Flair, but when he attempted to make a dramatic entrance by bursting through a gimmicked wall a la the Kool-Aid Man, oh yeah! He tripped and committed a pratfall the Three Stooges would have been envious of.
His helmet fell off, he made a slow recovery, and Sid started yelling at him, like Sid is prone to do. Ole Anderson was off camera providing the voice for Shockmaster. You can almost get a hint of him wanting to laugh. I think he chuckled a little bit at first.
To their credit, WCW ran with the Shockmaster as clumsy guy gimmick and even won this War Games match, but the character was immediately ditched after that.
Edge and Christian brought Ottman on to revisit the Shockmaster incident on their great WWE Network show, and he seems to have a great sense of humor about it, which is good because it's the worst and funniest debut of all time.
So there you go, our pick for the worst wrestler debuts of all time. Be sure to let us know what we missed in the comments.
And of course, be sure to check out our video for the best debuts of all time. It's right up now, and it'll be on VHS tape soon, available at the Mall of America at Suncoast.
Go there, buy that, then go get yourself a Stromboli.
Yeah, maybe you'll find Lex Luger over there in line. I want 5 batches of lasagna.
He says, "You are not Wolfpack NWO."
Then he just walks around crop dusting everybody. Psst, what's that? Oh, it's Total Package again.
It's a total package of my farts.
Yeah.
Gonna be a long day today. Yeah! Woohoo!
What are those pants you like? Zubaz?
Zubaz pants. Yeah,
Yeah.
They all wore them back
They
in,
love
in
the
the
Zubaz
90s.
pants.
They're comfy. Putting a Popeyes at Rancho.
Nice.
Very exciting.
Susie and pie. So, God, what was it? No, I was watching an episode of Quantum Leap the other day where he leapt into a wrestler. He was a heel Russian wrestler.
Dick and balls?
Well, his partner, during one scene, was wearing his tights and he was half erect. His dick was everywhere.
Yeah.
AJ Styles had an erect dick on one of those episodes of Raw.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But then Bischoff says we are in control. Who is we?
He's not in control.
Who is this we, though? That like the NWO literally backstage in the booking room?
Well, yeah, at one point,
It's like
Kevin Nash.
It was like the NWO was there with Dusty and Kevin Sullivan, and Bischoff pounds on the desk and says, "We are in control," and they just took that snippet and put in the NWO theme.